ask the same questions, Sharwan,
Oh,
to
yeah.
make them to make them recorded. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Welcome again.
Maybe first of all, Baris, you can introduce yourself one more time, and we can like.
Okay. So this is Barış from Istanbul, Turkey. I'm an Agile consultant working at ACM. I'm also a managing partner of ACM. ACM is an Agile consultancy company based in Istanbul, but we are providing services all over the world. So I'm basically working with companies, like any kind of companies actually, and any kind of size of companies, to help them their transformations. This is a very quick introduction of me, and thank you very much for having me at your meetup. So it's a pleasure. So if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Yeah, and by the way, today is the topic of our discussion is Agile Transformation for IT and for non-IT. And we can also discuss about self-organizing teams, how to make it more self-organized, and etc. Shravant, I guess you have a question, so please ask.
Yeah, I wonder that when you manage to apply Scrum in non-IT backgrounds, how do you make them self-organized, and do you follow some other methods to make them self-organized? Does it seem like, how do we use the same techniques like team working agreement, or give autonomy to the team, or how it works actually in non-IT backgrounds?
By the means of organizational things in companies, actually they are more or less same. I mean, even if it is a software company, or even if it is, for example, a hardware production factory, for example, all the organizational stuff are the same. What I mean is, if in a company self-organization is a problem, for example, in software company, it is also you have the same problem at the hardware company as well, because it's most probably related about the structure of the companies, the organizational structure. So that it's specific to your question, Sharwanat, it is the same practices, like the team working agreements, giving autonomy to the team, and having a product owner and scrum master, etc., etc. So they are all the same stuff. But one more thing to make them self-organized, in my opinion, I mean for all teams, by the way, you have to have some kind of experienced people in the team. I mean, because people who are not experienced are very hesitating on making decisions by their own, or making some contribution to teams' goals. What I mean is, if you increase the knowledge, increase the expertise in the team, it will be more easier to make decisions in a self-organized way. So that if you may still have some junior people on the team, but you need to make them educated, and you need to make them feel safe, even if they put the silliest idea in the world. So you need to create some kind of psychological safe environment to make people to talk and discuss in their teams. So as a summary, as I mentioned, all stuff are the same, but you need to increase the knowledge level, even if it's in a software domain or non-IT domain. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that is true actually, because even I observed the same situation. Like when you have a new team and everybody don't know about the Agile and Scrum, it is very hard to make them self-organized. But you have some experienced people, and they will create that environment, so you can easily make them self-organized by following the same methods which we can use in software. Yeah, that is true. I do accept it. Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing on this topic. It is also important in what maturity level are your teams. I mean, if they are really experienced, and for example, let's say 5 level maturity levels, which means that 1 is the worst and the 5 is the best, by means of the self-organization. For example, if this team is a mature one, the 5-point mature one, which means that you can delegate any kind of decision to that team. By, for example, budget decisions, financial decisions, uh, let's say product roadmap decisions, etc., etc. But if your team in the worst level, at the first level, you may not delegate all of the decisions. You need to start small for let's say increasing the area for self-organization. So it can start from this self-organized team to self-managed team. So there's a kind of growth path for the teams.
Do you use any techniques to know how you as a team scrum maturity or agile maturity, how much they have? How do you figure it out? Like how do you measure their scrum maturity? Do you have any techniques to use?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because we have some, let's say, measurement frameworks that we developed internally, and we can measure, for example, how they are, for example, self-organizing, how product owner is behaving, how scrum master is mature, or how the team applying, for example, definition of done, or let's etc. From different perspectives, we developed, for example, 5 different perspectives. We measure the team, but in my opinion, they are useless, by the way, because you cannot quantify the behaviors. I mean, you cannot quantify, for example, I give your self-organization 5. What does it mean? I mean,
Is constant.
if I say, you can say me, your self-organization level is 3. What is 3? What is 5? So it is very hard to define these kind of things, because this is a kind of a complex thing. So you cannot formulate it, but you can use the measurement frameworks as a kind of baseline to give you some transparency what the situation is, and maybe you can build on it by talking with your team during, for example, maybe retrospectives, to discover any impediments by using these numbers. But it's not a kind of way that I like. So
Yeah,
so
because
this is the no part, by the way.
because recently I've been learning this concept agile influence model.
Mm-hmm.
That model says that we can improve the maturity level of the our team. So they have
Mm-hmm.
different methods like focusing, then delivering, optimizing and
Yeah.
strengthening. So they said that it's every stage. If you want your team to be there, so it takes some time. Like if you want a is focusing stage, probably you need a you will make them self-organized and some kind of autonomy. They are autonomy to take their own decisions. So it takes like 3 months to 1 year, but
Mm-hmm.
like next level, like you said, like the high maturity team, you can have a budget or financial discussions with them, so that takes like maybe 2 years. So this model says like these are all the steps. If you follow them, you can make them self-organized. So I got like, you use any
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I know Agile philosophy model, but as I mentioned, I'm not a fan of any kind of models like this, because I believe in that. Uh, for example, I have seen lots of teams, let's say spent like one year on agile methods principles, but I can say that they are really low maturity, low mature teams. I mean, it's not a matter of time. It's not a matter of doing. For example, if they are doing Scrum, it's not a matter of if they are doing the Scrum by the book, for example. It doesn't mean that they are going to be a mature team. But I guess it requires some more stuff to be a good and mature team.
Perfect. Actually, even I watched one of the good videos recent times by Michael Favor, I think. From he said the same thing. Like most of the times, we get into any project and we try to make them we try to implement the agile principles and scrum principles, and you want to make them learn everything. But when you observe, like he said that Michael said that every team has own working environment. They do the things in their own way. Probably they might be have, even though like you said, if you don't follow agile or scrum, they don't know anything, but still they might be a very good mature team. So even though if they don't follow all of these things, but still they have the agility because they are good performing team. So what I realized that when we go and find a new team, instead of we go and try to implement the Scrum or Kanban or maybe any technology, any agile methodology, I think we should. This is my opinion. Like we should try to understand the team composition and team working culture, and whatever they're lacking. So maybe they don't have the retrospectives is not going well. Probably we have to implement in that manner. Otherwise, if we try to implement whatever the rule mentioned everything in agile and scrum, probably it might won't work with them because they are already good. So we concentrate on areas where they are lacking. I think that's the right thing.
Yeah. A quick question to all of you, by the way. Maybe around that kind of what is the maturity and how can we implement the maturity or evaluate the maturity of teams. So my question is, when is a sprint is successful? I mean, I'm assuming all of you are familiar with Scrum. So in Scrum we use sprints, right?
Yeah.
And when is a sprint successful?
In my opinion, the sprint is successful if we delivered value and if we achieved the sprint goal. That I would say it can be, and we also receive feedback from our end users that they are fine with our outcome. That is the successful sprint, I would say.
Okay. Any ideas?
I'm almost same with my answer also same. Probably we achieve the sprint goal, and we perform all our daily scrum sprint retrospective, and the sprint retrospective we will figure it out what are the areas to focus for the next sprint. All these things, if perfectly happens, might be the sprint is successful.
Good. Any other ideas? Karen, and I couldn't read Russian, but
it's
Tatiana.
Yeah, but she's she's my assistant. She just.
Oh, okay, cool. So,
maybe Karen also when I add anything on this. Oh, I guess it's.
I wasn't concentrating, so
okay.
I didn't hear what you've been saying, and I've just logged on.
Okay. We're just discussing some. Baris asked what it means that sprint sprint is successful? What are the like kind of parameters that we can say that sprint is successful?
Probably completing all the work in that sprint.
Okay, good. Actually, there is no right answer for this. I mean, any company or any team can define their criteria of success for what the successful sprint is. But in my opinion, even if we doesn't reach our goal at the end of the sprint, if you as a team, if you learn something new during that sprint, this is a kind of I think a successful one. I mean, even if you, for example, even if you couldn't reach your goal at the end, and if you learn something this, and if you try to make this better in the next sprint, that's a definition of successful sprint for me. So at some companies, I actually most of the companies, I'm seeing that companies makes the definition for this is the reaching the goal and doing all the stuff that they planned for that sprint. But this should not be the case from my side.
Yeah, I would accept with you, because yeah, most of the times it's like there is no such guarantee that every sprint we will reach the target, or we will reach the productivity, or whatever the sprint goal we define. But if we learn something from that sprint, yeah, that is a good thing. Like we have the retrospective, probably, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If we reached a goal, probably somebody will come up with, you know, maybe we didn't really, you know, plan the task well. Maybe we didn't slice our user stories well. When somebody realized that, you know, sometimes developers, they knew that this is not going to happen, but they don't have that courage enough to say in that moment, so they will let it happen. So you can, we will develop that, you know, the scrum values, you know. Yeah, he would say without any fear of failure, we can openly say that, you know, maybe this user story is too long to do it, probably we can't finish in the sprint. Yeah, we will come to know many things from the failed sprints as well, that can be helpful for the future.
Yep. Any questions?
Good. Let's keep to our topic of agile transformation. And
Okay.
what are the like common problems, like when you're doing agile transformation? What are the most tough things that you are facing with? Like maybe common problems, and what should we start our agile transformation journey?
Good question. So I think the first thing, the first common problem is by the way, if you are trying to do some organizational change stuff, the number one problem is the leadership behavior. The leaders is the most important part. What I mean is, in the surveys, in the reports, it is reported that the leadership behaviors, leadership perspective is the number one challenge or impediment for all companies. So that what I mean is, when you start an agile transformation, you are saying your leaders is that you need to change your behaviors, which is a very hard thing. I mean, you can change your way of working very easily. I mean, you can do a 2 days scrum training, and then just after that you can do some rollout activity, maybe do as Sharon says, team agreements. You can create psychological safe environment, etc., etc. But if you couldn't change your leaders' behavior, you can easily lose this environment in a moment. That's the number one challenge. But what is the cure about it? I mean, you need to include the leaders, include the decision makers at the first day of your transformation. But in an agile way, actually. You need to create and you need to form maybe in ACM we call it Agile Leaders Team. Agile Leaders Team is founded by the C-level people inside the company. We are behaving them like a Scrum team for developing a software, for example. They are also being a software Scrum team. They run sprints. They have backlog. They have a product owner, scrum master. For example, we are assigning CEO as the product owner, a real product owner. So we are making them to understand what does it mean to be agile, what does it mean to be working in an agile way. So we are trying to make them informed by doing it. That is the important part. Then they also manage a backlog. They manage a backlog of transformation. I mean, you have in the team level or in the portfolio level, for example, you are going to have some impediments. So you need to bring those impediments to the agile leaders team's backlog. So they will work on these backlog to remove those impediments for their people. So that's the resolution for it. In addition, it's a very famous saying: "Leader sets the tone." I mean, if your leader says, "Okay, we are going to be agile," loudly, people most probably will follow. But if they, for example, if you're trying to implement Scrum framework in team level, but your leader says something different, so it is not impossible. It is impossible to make it in a good way and also in a scale way. So that's the number one challenge, in my opinion. And in the second challenge, I think the resistance of people for change. It is also a bit a tricky topic. I mean, we can talk about this resistance to change long day long. But in short, you need to include your people at any time, and you need to include any people during this transformation efforts to make them informed, because most of the times if people are not informed, and if the environment is not transparent, people will be having some kind of fears about their future. Perfect. So that you need to communicate this very well. I mean, for example, in a traditional organization, for example, a manager most probably expecting to be promoted to another level in the hierarchy at some point later, because the system works by this way. But now you are changing this in a different way, which means in a network-like organization, which is the teams are the basic foundations of this structure. But in this situation, this manager couldn't find a place for himself and for his expectations. So that you need to be communicate this transparently, even if you are changing it in a different way. That's the number two one. I think these are the things that I'm facing. In team level, it is again a kind of a change, resistance to change kind of problems we are facing, and some technical stuff, less like product owners couldn't manage product backlog in a good way, for example. Scrum masters being like scrum fathers and scrum mothers inside the team. I mean, they are not letting their team to fail sometimes to learn something. They are always holding team's hand and to raise them up in any situation. So sometimes Scrum masters tries to manage people. These kind of things are the common problems.
Hierarchical problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and how are you leading those change if we're talking about leadership? Because we know that sometimes it's really hard to convince a top manager to change anything, to change structure, to change structure or culture on more agile way. So how are you facing these problems and from your experience?
Mm-hmm. So as I mentioned, the first thing that you can do, forming a kind of guiding position, which we call is agile leaders, and put those people in this team. I mean, those leaders. This is the one thing. And the second thing, and the most powerful tool that you can convince the managers is measures. I mean, measuring the things, actually measuring the effects of your efforts on some KPIs. For example, employee satisfaction. For example, customer satisfaction. For example, time to market. So at the beginning of your transformations, you need to measure the current situation. You can do this by, for example, surveys that you can send to your customers, that you can send people, for example, and you can measure some stuff like, as I mentioned, employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, time to market, blah, blah, blah. So then you need to create some kind of baseline at the beginning, and you need to measure, and you need to do the same stuff. If you do it, for example, at the beginning with surveys, again, you need to do it with the same survey and the same method. Then, for example, just after 2 months, you do the same measurement again. Then you can compare both items. I mean, if it is goes well, you most probably get that manager on board. If it is not, you may need to work to how can you remove impediments on the way, because most probably it might be a cause of some impediments that you couldn't realize during that period. So you maybe work on it together, and so this is the way I think you can convince the managers.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
From my experience.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. What about culture? So if we're talking about agile transformation, I guess we should also take care of our cultural things. So what you can, from your experience, suggest on, for example, how can we change our culture? Yeah, if we have already some cultures implemented, some cultural values, and etc. How can we move it to a more agile culture?
It's again a long question, Egor. Thank you very much asking hard questions. I mean, culture change is the hardest part of this stuff. I mean, as I mentioned, you can just easily form a Scrum team in 2 days, in 3 days, and then they can start working on it. But from the culture side, it's the least feasible and not feasible. It's the least visible part. It is not transparent. I mean, when you do some change on culture, it is not the thing that can be seen easily. So you need to work on it very frequently. I mean, work on it always, every day. So you need to make maybe you need to celebrate, or maybe you need to appreciate the behaviors which are aligned with the agile culture through the way. That's the way that you can create change on the culture side. Also, the first thing that I mentioned about the leaders, I mean, founding an agile leaders team is a really good cultivator for culture change as well, because people see their leaders are working in a scrum way, for example, in a sprint way. They are working they are doing their stuff through product backlog. They, for example, run reviews with all people in the company, which is a kind of a transparent environment. So people also see this the same example, which we call it is a kind of lead by example practice. I mean, if you want something to be done by other people, you need to do it by yourself first, then people can do it. So this is very crucial. I mean, for example, if a leaders team do a sprint review by their own, maybe they can do daily scrum in front of all the people, I don't know. So these are the stuff that feeds the culture change. This is one thing, and other stuff is also you can start some culture initiatives. I mean, some small practices that you can employ, that you can trigger that culture change. For example, let's take example as meetings in a traditional company. You may be experienced in your past careers. There are lots of inefficient meetings that we run, and the reasons behind it, for example, they may be last very long. Maybe people who are required are not attending, maybe. So, for example, in Turkey, in our transformation transformation clients, we are applying a rule, for example, late box rule. What means is, if a people is late to attend the meeting, for example, for 5 minutes, he needs to pay something for it. I mean, because it is a kind of unrespectful behavior for the team decision. I mean, if we are a team decided to, let's say, run our, for example, planning at starting 9 a.m. in the morning, and if you, Egor, for example, come to that meeting 5 minutes late, so you need to pay for your act. I mean, for example, we put as a, for example, 1 Turkish liras, then you need to pay 5 Turkish liras in the team bank, let's say. So you can do some kind of such kind of practices based on your creativity. So you may use this kind of tools to trigger the behaviors and trigger the culture that you want to build inside your company.
I also know one of my friends, he's CEO of a company. So in order to for people who are going to be late, for each minute, you should like 20 make some exercises, and those, what, for example, 1 minute, it's like 20x exercises for 1 minute late. And if you are late, you should like put in group how you are doing those exercises, physical exercises. So everyone should be aware that you are like, you made this punishment and shared it with others. It also was kind of agreement in the team.
I know one other thing from one of my friends' company. What they are following is like, whoever comes late, so they will have to buy the chocolates for other team members. So that will make environment little bit more, happy and enjoyable environment. At the same time, you are saying something, So yeah, even my friend told me one time they do that thing in their company.
Yeah, a couple days back, one of my team decided as punishment to buy lamb chops. For example, if you are late for 1 minute, you are all one lamb chops for your team.
Yeah.
So these are the things maybe you can do, as I mentioned, as practices to create a healthy culture
Mm-hmm.
in your
Good.
teams and in your company.
You said
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please.
You said that agile to make management, higher management, to make them aware of the Scrum. The best method is to create a agile leaders team. If
Mm-hmm.
if management is they are busy with their management style, management decisions, and they don't have a time to participate as a product owner or Scrum master or anything, how do you deal the situation when how do you make them aware of the Scrum if they are not part of agile leaders team, means like they're not part of the Scrum team?
You mean that if, for example, if we cannot include these people in the Agile leaders team, right?
Agile team, yeah, you are
Yeah,
talking. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Actually, it's a matter of time. I mean, we are constantly trying to be included in this team. This is the first thing that we are trying to do. We are constantly saying it time to time, frequently. Come to team, for example. This is one thing. Even if we couldn't do this, sometime later transformation fails. So it's not that long. But when we think about their business, I mean, if they do not have time to be in the team, which the strategy is to let them make their daily stuff by using Scrum. This is the way. I mean, for example, you are a top manager in your company, and you have lots of meetings scheduled during the week, for example, and some of them are for example, for the board's meeting. I mean, you are coming together with other higher managers, senior managers, to or C-level managers to do stuff, to make decisions. So I am constantly making scrums events, scrum ceremonies to do their stuff. For example, I'm talking to them. Okay, guys, what is your goal for the next month? For example, we run 1 month sprints mostly in Agile Leaders teams. For example, okay, for what is the goal of company for this month? I mean, they can discuss about it, and they also do create their backlog based on this goal to reach that goal. So at some point later, we do not add some other ceremonies by using Scrum on their really busy agenda. We also make a removal of some of their events, some of their meetings from their agenda, and instead we are putting the Scrum events. I don't know if I'm clear or not,
I
but
understand correctly, like you are suggesting that whatever the managers in their daily life, the activities, the meeting they have, the impediments they have, you want to make them in an agile way, in a Scrum way.
yes,
They will straight
yes,
to understand the Scrum.
yes. That thank you very much. You summarize what I'm trying to explain. Sorry about my uh,
No.
perfect English. Thank you. So I think last question, Egor.
Yeah. Let's have a last question. What is the role of servant leader? Yeah, in Agile Transformation. For example, in a Scrum team, we have a scrum master,
Mm-hmm.
or we can have a delivery manager, some time in outsourcing companies. So what are their role like servant leader in agile transformation?
Okay, I will. Before answering this question, I would like to ask you guys, how many times servant leader word is included in Scrum Guide? How many times? Have you just make a guess? Don't do Google research.
I guess like 7 times.
It is only one time.
Okay.
I mean, it's only one time in the Scrum Master, in the definition of Scrum Master. Why I am asking this question is, it is maybe the most untouched part of servant leadership in the Scrum Guide. I mean, Scrum Guide doesn't mention that servant leadership is a really important thing, blah 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 blah. Because, for example, in Scrum Guide, stakeholder word repeats like 6 or 7 times or something, and most of them are based on related about transparency. So if when you compare it with the servant leader repeat, it is only one time. Anyways, I'm just asking this. I think there's an empty space for that kind of thing for servant leadership. But in real life, in agile transformations, if we think that the main role for servant leaders is to actually two things that they should do during the transformations. The first one is removing the impediments of people by managing the dependencies with the traditional world, with the agile world. I mean, at the beginning of your transformation efforts, for example, if you have, let's say, Scrum teams, for example, but here there are some traditional work is going on. So as a servant leader, you are in the middle of this. So you need to remove the impediments inside, in this situation as a servant leader. This is one thing. And the second thing is to create an psychological safety environment inside the teams. Even it doesn't matter that you are a Scrum Master, you are a manager, you are the CEO. I mean, in all stuff, in all roles, as a servant leader, I think you need to create psychological safety environment. What I mean by psychological safety environment is, if you feel like vulnerable in your team, this team is in a kind of psychological safety zone. I mean, I also mentioned it. You can say the silliest idea in the world. You may say something irrelevant in your context, etc., etc. And even in such conditions, you can be 100% sure that your team doesn't make you feel bad. I mean, this is a kind of psychological safety environment. So, as summary, two roles, two things expecting from leaders: to being a bridge between the traditional world and the agile world to remove impediments, and the second thing, to create psychological safety environment. So these are the things that I mentioned, that I would like to mention.
Yeah, good. So we are on time, I guess.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone, guys, for joining us. So for the next, we can have a next meeting in 1 week. I mean, on Agile Transformation, to have maybe like another meetup on on Agile Transformation. Maybe if we will have some more questions that need to be discussed.
Yeah, it can be Egor, but not next Tuesday will be a bank holiday in Turkey. So let's discuss the date and time. I will be more than happy to present and be here. It is really great to discuss and exchange ideas, stuff. So I'm also learning a lot. Thank you very much for this.
Nice conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll public the next meetup in Instagram page, so you can follow me on Instagram and join.
Okay.
I put link in our chat group. Also, we are on Telegram as well. If you have this Telegram, you can also join, and we'll public the meetup. And keep in touch, guys. Have a great time. Have a safe weekend, and see you on our next meetup.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much,
Thank you,
guys.
Sarabonat.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.